Hi, I am here today to show you a little bit about how to play a Druid's Duel. A Druid's Duel is a turn-based strategy game where both the units and the game board are meant to be constantly changing, so you have to adapt your strategy. I'm going to go into a multiplayer game just to show you the rules of how the different things work. This is the game board. As you can see, is made of a bunch of floating land spaces. The object of the game is to own the green land spaces. You can see some of them have ownership markers. Here's some blue, some yellow down here. When you own the land, you generate mana. And this is your only resource. And you use this mana on each of your turns to do all the cool things. So I'm going to run through how some of the different units work and how you move them around the board. There are 4 different unit types, 4 different kinds of druids, and they each move and attack differently. You use these together to take over your opponent's land. This is the Guardian unit. He has an action counter above his head. He can move 1 space in every direction. He can attack and grab land. Grabbing land is as easy as stepping on the land space. They turn dark. That means that the unit has already gone. They're done for the turn. You can move each of your druids or animals up to their full potential every turn. And you can move each of them their full potential every turn. The Guardian unit, like I said, moves 1 space in every direction. However, each druid also can turn into an animal form. This button down here. The Guardian can turn into a wolf, so instead of moving 1 space, he can now actually move 4 spaces, gathering a lot of land for you for your next turn. The wolf cannot attack, but that's a trade-off you have. You can either move as a Guardian, move and attack, or forego the attacking and take over a bunch more land for yourself. Of course, your opponent is doing the same thing, trying to take over the land spaces. I'm going to set up a couple things here so you can get an idea of how all these guys work together. You can, on your turn, you can add. You can also spend your mana on adding new units to the board. They come in darkened, which means they can't move right away. This is something to keep in mind so you plan ahead for next turn. Okay, now that we're kind of all set up, I'm going to move on to the next unit, the Wind Rider unit. He's the one with the bow and arrow. Essentially, the Wind Rider can move 1 space in every direction, or it can shoot exactly 2 spaces. Notice there's a red indicator down here saying you can shoot this Guardian. Now, he has a couple options. He can shoot the guy, which destroys the unit but doesn't take over the land space, or he can turn into an eagle. And as an eagle, he opens up a lot of options. He can cover a lot of ground. He can land over in this space over here and capture the land. He can land over here, or he can dive bomb a unit, taking over the land and destroying the unit. Now, he can't attack adjacent, which means by dive bombing him into a group, you've pretty much just sacrificed him. However, sometimes that's what you're going to want to do. Set up some kind of cool stuff here. The third most expensive unit is called the Snarlclaw, and he's kind of like the super Guardian. He can move his 2 actions. He can move or attack. He can move first and then attack, but if he attacks, he's stopped. He's only human. So one way to counter him is to put him up against a wall, such as a front row of Guardians or something like that. Or if he attacks one, he stops, and then you can easily take him the next turn. However, the Snarlclaw's bear form, his animal form, kind of overcomes that. He just becomes kind of a wrecking machine. He can smash through up to 3 units in a row, capturing the land and taking them out. It's very powerful. The last and most expensive and powerful unit I want to show you is called the Waywalker. And the Waywalker is like the caster of the group. He is the only unit that comes in active. So when he comes in, he's ready to rock. He has all of his abilities. He's ready to go. And the Waywalker has 3 actions. But he does not do anything physical. He's kind of lazy guy. So how he attacks people is with spells. And his primary spell you'll probably be using a lot is the same spell used to alter the shape of the board. So this one here is add or remove land, and it does exactly that, including add or removing land under the feet of an enemy. And that's how he gets rid of people. But as you notice, he's also changed the shape of the board, As you can imagine, in a multiplayer game, by the end of the game, the board may look completely different than when it started, as you move around different Waywalkers and add and destroy land. Now, when the Waywalker comes in active, that's pretty powerful. He can only use one spell, but he still has 2 more actions, so he can just move. Or his animal form is a turtle. And as a turtle, he is indestructible. He cannot be destroyed. He basically functions like an obstacle, like the shrubs and bushes and stumps and stuff like that. Just to demonstrate this, see the Guardian here, Yellow Guardian can attack the Wind Rider. He can move these spaces here, or, oh, he can't attack the turtle. The next turn, when the Waywalker is at his full potential, he has 2 other spells as well. In fact, he has all the spells all the time, but he can cast 3 of them on his second turn and farther on. One is add or remove obstacles. Does what it sounds. You can add or remove these obstacles to the board, further altering the terrain. Or the last spell is land steal, and this can turn any piece of land within a range of 3 to your color. It can be any land you don't own or land you didn't previously own, and then of course as you can put new units down on land you own, you can then fill it up. You may be asking yourself what this thing over here is. It's glowing, so it's got to be good, right? That's called a relic. And a relic gives you a mana bonus. So all you really need to do is be able to get a unit over next to it, use up an action point to touch it. It turns your color, and then if you still own it at the start of your next turn, you get 10 additional mana. And this goes back and forth, but you have to be the owner of it. The game continues on until there are no more land spaces that are owned by your opponent. You do not have to cover the entire board, but you do have to make sure you're the only one who owns land. So right now, yellow only owns 1 piece of land. Now 2. Game's not quite over yet. Now you notice I just killed their last Druid, but I have not taken over the last piece of land. If this were a real game, an opponent could come back, because if they own a lot of land but have no units, they continue to generate mana. So on their turn, they could put down a bunch of guys and continue to battle you. The game ends when the last piece of land is taken. Some stats here kind of shows you a little bit of some of the mana generated, how many turns it took, lapse time, stuff like that. That is gameplay in a nutshell. There are quite a few different boards on multiplayer to check out, some of which are quite a bit trickier than others. This one in particular is kind of tricky. It has a lot of bridges. Bridges with the brown spaces on the land. They do not generate mana, and they're indestructible. This one here may look a little different, but essentially the gameplay is the same. It's just this is using the Altenfall season tile set. Otherwise, the game functions the same. Different music, different art. Game works the same. Those are the basic rules. Hope you have fun.